To understand how to execute targeted instruction, we first need to understand the components that are critical for success. There are 4 components. First, targeted instruction should be data-driven. Students get grouped based on the data, which requires thoughtful prior planning. Targeted instruction is most powerful when there is student ownership as well. When considering data-driven decisions, there are 2 questions to ask yourself. What data should I use, and how do I use the data to inform small group instruction? Although this is not an exhaustive list, some ideas for data sources can be checks for understanding, writing samples, quiz and test grades, student feedback, and warm-up and exit tickets. Ideally, you would have 1 data point at the beginning of your lesson, at least 1 check for understanding in the middle of your lesson, and some form of assessment at the end of your lesson that aligns to the objective. Once you have your data points, you can use this to inform your small group instruction. You may pull small groups based on need, possibly for remediation, but also for acceleration. Targeted small group instruction varies based on the diverse needs of students as identified by data. For example, a teacher may focus on multi-digit multiplication with one group and single-digit with another. To get started, identify specific student needs and create groups for targeted instruction based on these needs. When needed, change student groups in response to student needs. Use groups for different aspects of instruction. For example, you may pull a small group to pre-teach new concepts, or pull students from a small group discussion for increased engagement. You may also need to pull out students for one-on-one tutoring. Targeted instruction is most commonly used to reteach opportunities. Instructional planning is important in all aspects of teaching, increasingly so when planning targeted instruction. Some questions to ask yourself include: how can I get students to master critical content in a meaningful way? There should be purposeful adaptations when providing instructional support for small group instruction. What materials will we need? Consider the materials you and your students will need so that you're ready and can maximize the time available in a small group. How can I give my small group processing and application time? Although time together is short, students need ample processing time. Plan for this when planning small groups. What will the rest of the class be doing while I have a small group? Remember that you have a class full of students. Consider classroom arrangements to ensure success for all students. Keep in mind Pablo Picasso's thoughts as you undertake planning. Our goals can only be reached through a vehicle of a plan in which we must fervently believe and upon which we must vigorously act. There is no other route to success. Targeted instruction is most powerful when students have ownership of their learning. Giving students opportunities to track and monitor their own data and supporting them in their own goals for learning will increase their engagement in critical content. Meet with students in mini conferences to discuss and refine their goals. To quote Rene Ritchie, an instructional specialist, students work harder when they understand and realize the impact they have on their own progress. When students track their progress and reflect on their practices, they clearly see the connection between work done and the grade they earned. Instruction specialist Rene Ritchie said, "They are no longer bystanders in their own education." Let's take a moment to reflect on our strengths and areas of growth with these components.